How's it going out there, YouTube? I'm coming to you today in avatar form because, well, quite frankly, I basically look like what happens when somebody hasn't had a high fiber diet for a while and they have a really high fiber. You get where I look like shit. But that point aside, I decided I was going to do a little bit of a rant. This isn't necessarily an off the cuff, so just one particular topic. This is simply just a rant, so no script. I'm just letting my mind flow as it is. So, without further ado, we'll be discussing Tommy Robinson's imprisonment in the UK. 13 months in jail for filming alleged child traffickers. Like I said, alleged, that were walking into a courtroom. Now, I read a thread not too long after the original incident happened that broke down how technically he was, doing something against the law at the time. But regardless, just because it's against the law, just because the law says it's not okay, doesn't mean I disagree with it. After all, personally, I think all drugs should be legal, but that's besides the point. The point is that if we, as a culture, the Western culture, allow this to become a thing, then it sets a precedent for it to be allowed to happen again and again and again. And you know how the story goes at this point. It's someone called a slippery slope fallacy. Others with half a brain call it being able to see human nature for what it is. After all, you give the government a little bit of power, they take it a mile 9 times out of 10. But the fact of the matter is, what he did, whether it be against the law or not, wasn't in any way, shape, or form technically hurting anybody. Now, someone could say, yes, what he was doing was not necessarily enticing violence, but making it seem like these individuals were already proven to be guilty. But if you watch the footage that he had of him videotaping them when they were going into the courtroom, he is not making any clear indication that these individuals are already proven guilty. So, that little tidbit of information out of the side. The funniest thing to me about it was when the media was like, the government in the UK was like, oh, we can't talk about this. The guy was arrested doing this. From what I understand, he wasn't even given a trial. He was just thrown in jail for, from what I understand, 13 months. Now, I might be wrong about that. Like I said, this is a rant, so I don't have everything right in front of me right now, so bear with me here. Now, the right to a free and fair trial is something that most people in the Western world, I say most, are well aware of the fact that it's very important, because if you were to base everything off of mob rule, well then, quite frankly, I'm sure there would be a lot of people that were in prison for something that they didn't need to do. But aside from that, it also allows for people that aren't guilty to prove themselves innocent. Well, actually, technically, they're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but you get where I'm going with this. When faced with a tyrannical government, considering it's usually done by a group of your peers. And I realize that's not literally how it goes, but you catch my meaning. The fact of the matter, the reality is, this particular situation has been going on for about two weeks, I want to say, because I said I was going to do a video last week, but I didn't. Life got in the way. It happens. But since then, he has been offered asylum in Germany, which I don't think is any fucking better. But at this point, I think he should take it. I mean, he's sitting on a from what I assume, a presumed sentence. If it's not 100% official yet, it's a presumed sentence. And he's going to get shafted for doing something that, well, even if it is in the eyes of the law illegal, it's still not morally wrong, and it did not deter in any way, shape, or form another person's human or civil rights. So even if it is a law, the law is, well, from the United States, we call it unconstitutional. But regardless, the what I was saying before, I got a little off track. What I was saying before about the media shutting, not the media, the government shutting down the media talking about it was one of the biggest red flags I had ever seen in my life. Now, I know maybe kind of is a standard for particular court cases to be handled this way. You don't want information getting out if you have potential witnesses, people you want to bring in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I understand that. The fact of the matter is that there was a ban on it, and the ban is still held, as far as I can tell. And as far as I can tell, he is sentenced. So the court proceedings are already done, and these people are like, oh yeah, we still don't want you reporting on us, don't want you talking about it. Now, another side of this is the mainstream media talking about how he's just a far-right activist. Basically, what they're doing is they're taking this man, and instead of, they're like, oh, he's a man, but he's also this far-right Nazi sympathizer that you shouldn't feel any humanity towards, and you shouldn't support his right to free speech because he's evil. This is a traditional arguing tactic done by those that have no ability to actually argue points and would rather appeal to emotional arguments. You see this a lot with socialists, people that think that anything literally to the right of Stalin is Hitler, and most of your college-educated argumentative types. But the fact of the matter is, just because the people in the UK aren't allowed to report on this doesn't mean that the rest of the world is unable to report on this, which makes a very precarious position for the UK government, which I believe is what led to Germany offering Robinson asylum to begin with. Personally, I think the United States should, but that's a topic for another video. The fact of the matter is, we as a society need to respect the fact that free speech is an unalienable human right. It's not a right granted by the government. It's not a privilege, in other words. Bear that in mind when somebody starts talking to you about rights. When they start bringing in the concept of a government, well, the government's giving you the right. No. You have the right. The government has to respect that. If the government doesn't respect that, then they're essentially criminal. So bear that in mind whenever someone brings up that argument, and not necessarily, the argument of freedom of speech, but any argument, Second Amendment especially, because I hear that a lot with the Second Amendment. But with the whole Tommy Robinson thing, it's a massive shit show, and quite frankly, Germany isn't much better. But I'd like to see him get asylum there anyway, just to stick it in the ass of the UK government, because, well, let's face it. The police in the United Kingdom can arrest this man, can tell people they can't fly the Union Jack, but they have no issue whatsoever allowing Hezbollah flags to... they don't have any issue with it. They say that they can't control it. Come from the same government that'll kick down your door because you want an assault knife in your fucking house. That's hyperbole, by the way. Hyperbole for future reference. There's also the same government that'll... the same government that will give you shit for having common household handyman tools, hammers, pliers, knives, etc., etc., etc. Meanwhile, they have a massive increase in crime, but they don't want to talk about that. They'd rather dick this guy or his political beliefs aside. Whether or not you agree with the guy isn't the point. The point is that he simply is being wronged and screwed over by a government simply for having wrong thinking. So, anyway, with that, I am done, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and or night, you cunts.